Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today let's discuss Healing Hands, which is finally getting a skill tree in last Epoch in 1.0. And let's just go over some of the nodes and some of the things that it's going to be going. So first, Healing Hands is a skill which has existed in the paladin tree for quite some time without being able to specialize it. There's various reasons why they waited to create a skill tree for the skill. One of the bigger reasons being that they wanted this type of skill to be able to support nodes which helped cooperation with other players, and multiplayer of course was only implemented in 9.0, so it does make sense that they waited and just kind of see how the game lays out into multiplayer and co-op play. With our release of last Epoch on February 21st, Healing Hands will finally be getting its long-awaited skill trees. While Healing Hands at its core offers a large amount of support focused on healing, once you remember that the Paladin is not a backline player, healing to a Paladin means more than mending wounds, but also healing the world of its evils. As such, Healing Hands offers a great deal of customization for offensive ability as well, including multiple ways to make it a directly damaging ability. Sounds interesting. So, Healing Hands. At its baseline, heals all allies in a target area for 100 health and applies a Lingering Warmth which heals 80 health over the next 3 seconds. The Lingering Warmth cannot stack on the same target. Here you can see you have a spell, buff, area, and attunement as its tags. Here you can see it in action, where they're actually using it. It looks like casting it in that small little area to heal themselves after they've been in battle. Pretty cool. Both heals from the ability scale with increased healing effectiveness, as you would think, as well as the nodes on the skill tree. This grants Healing Hands not only strong immediate recovery, but also provides a very strong heal over time to help yourself and allies nice and healthy, which reminds me a lot of Eterra's Blessing, which can also do the same thing, healing a single target, and then of course having that healing over time option inside of its tree. Of course, this one does it by default. Then we have the node Cleric's Hammer, grants Healing Hands a chance to trigger on any melee attack up to 100% chance with the 4 points assigned. This imbues all melee attacks to provide Healing Hands to all allies and yourself. Dude, this is sweet. When you directly use a melee attack and hit at least one enemy, you have a chance to cast Healing Hands around the target, and you can have up to 100% chance of that. Guaranteed Healing Hands to off every time that you use a melee skill. For melee attackers or melee builds, this could be really powerful. This does consume mana based on Healing Hands mana cost at 110%. Interesting, but less upfront healing for indirect cast, so it heals a little less, but it costs a little more, but overall you don't have to manually cast it at all. That's pretty sick. Here you can see that in action. Every time their melee attack's going off, it's healing in that area. Sweet. Hand of Orus. More favorable towards ranged damage, Hand of Orus allows Healing Hands to instead synergize with direct smite cast, adding its own healing area to smites. That's pretty sick. We have Searing Light. Healing Hands now hits enemies within its area of effect, dealing spell fire damage. Added spell damage applies to it at 200% effectiveness. So here you can heal and deal damage to enemies in that AoE as well. And then when you directly cast Smite, you have a chance to cast Healing Hands around the target location. This consumes 70% of its mana cost. And you can get 100% on that. So you can do it on melee and on Smite cast. That's pretty sick. Here you can see it, Smite comes down, it also heals. I think that'll be a good way to also scale it, and that's probably why they put this other node in there. Having spell fire damage on top of that means that you're basically getting 2 hits with Smite instead of 1. You'll have Smite come down, and then you can also have the Searing Light through Healing Hands. That's actually pretty sick, on top of being healed. We have Divine Bolt. Healing Hands now also adds support for Divine Bolts. By picking up the Divine Catalyst node, you will cast a number of Divine Bolts with every direct use of Healing Hands. Wow, pretty sick. You cast Divine Bolt at nearby enemies when you directly cast Healing Hands and heal yourself and an ally. So you do have to actually heal somebody with it at the same time. Divine Bolt is affected by specific passages from the Paladin tree, and if you take this node, then Divine Bolt from all sources scales with the nodes on this tree. That's actually pretty cool. So you can actually proc the Divine Bolts other ways through your passive tree, and you can scale its damage through this, or at least through all the other nodes on this tree. That's pretty cool. Here you can see it in action. That's pretty cool. You got all the Divine Bolts shooting out. They actually look like they're doing pretty decent damage too. I like it. It's going to be a lot more procs on skill uses. I like it. Rayos Chariot. You have Sun Shroud. You are immune to damage while moving with Healing Hands. Hold on. Can you make it into like an aura? Oh no, you make it into a Traversal skill. When you directly use Healing Hands, you dash to the target location first. However, Healing Hands now has a cooldown and counts as a Traversal skill. This does not affect indirect cast of Healing Hands. So indirectly casting it won't have the cooldown or won't proc the cooldown, but if you manually use it, you will traversal through with it, and then at the same time, you'll be immune while doing it, which most movement skills tend, like lunge, have an immune while moving when you use it anyways, so not a big deal there. And then we have Seraph Blade. Prefer to channel your healing powers through your blade. Taking this node will convert Healing Hands into a melee attack, converting spell damage from the tree into melee damage. A heavy hitting melee attack which also provides strong healing. Seraph Blade embodies the strongest aspect of the Paladin mastery. That's pretty cool. And it will deal fire damage on hit. So you will now do melee instead of spell, and you'll be healed at the same time as doing it. You can see here it's hitting in a nice arc. I like that. It has nice area to it. It's not a single attack, it's more of an area skill. Very nice. That actually looks pretty fire. Kind of reminds me of Void Cleave, but as a paladin fire type. I like it. We have Unbroken Prayer and Skyfall. Who doesn't like a good sky beam? By assigning Unbroken Prayer, converting Healing Hands into a channeled ability, you can further specialize it into Skyfall. By paying an additional mana cost each second, you deal additional fire damage over time while channeling Healing Hands, scorching clear a path of righteousness. So Unbroken Prayer here, Healing Hands becomes a channeled ability, casting 4 times per second regardless of cast speed and draining your mana. So you can't scale it, it's always going to be 4 times per second. You do not regenerate mana while channeling, but you will get 4 casts per second coming down. And dude, this looks just like that ability that kills me every time I'm facing the Majasa enemies. That's pretty sick though. I like it. You get to aim where it goes. And we have Skyfall. While channeling Healing Hands, you also call down a beam from the sky that deals fire damage over time to enemies around the target area and heals ally within its area of effect. Dude, this just looks cool. This is pretty sick. I look forward very much to using that. And then in closing, thanks again for joining us today on the coverage of the Paladin's Healing Hands skill tree. Offering potential as both a support ability, a damaging ability, triggers, or direct casting, Healing Hand offers a Paladin a number of new ways to play builds. Healing Hands still remaining available at 5 points invested into the Paladin tree, meaning you can also pick hands up if you're Forge Guard or Void Knight. It doesn't matter what mastery that you pick. Tomorrow we'll be recapping the coverage of item factions, Falconer, and Warlock for all the travelers just recently joining us or those who have missed the previous information. So stay tuned. And then on Sunday we have new item bases, item affixes, and uniques coming with the release of Last Epoch. Sweet. We've been looking forward to those. Sunday's going to be awesome. But that's going to be it for me, guys. Let me know in the comments below which node looks the funnest to you. I can tell you right now, this one I'm definitely going to be playing around with. Skyfall looks absolutely sick. Looking forward to that a ton. But of course, playing it as a melee or spell, or having, you know, that double when smites come down, also proccing it as spell fire damage, seems like it could be some cool ways to play it for some extra DPS in the future, as well as getting some healing. But that's going to be it for me. Let me know in the comments below what you think. As always, stay safe and have a good one.